All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're talking about THORChain. The token is RUNE, R-U-N-E. So we're going to dive into what THORChain actually is, what RUNE token is, and then we're going to do some on-chain analytics, and then wrap up with some price predictions and chart analysis of the actual RUNE token itself. So let's dive right in. Kind of just breaking down what THORChain actually does. So it's an independent blockchain. It operates as a layer one, but the big kind of selling points here are the fact that you can swap a layer one native asset across chains. Now, that's so big because when you think about crypto now and how many chains people are using, how many times people are bridging from chain to chain. This gives people the ability to be multi-chain and multi-chain agile. What I mean by that is that they can go from chain to chain very, very easily, meaning they can develop a game on one chain and bring in liquidity from a different chain into that ecosystem. So very, very powerful. There's no user registration required. So no, need like when you sign up for Coinbase or when you sign up for KuCoin, things like that. THORChain is just going to execute your transaction. And no wrapped assets. So if you've ever traded on OpenSea or a few other applications or websites, sometimes you need to wrap your Ethereum to send that across a chain or to bridge it. And you do not have to do that on THORChain, which is huge in terms of saving time and making sure the whole process is more secure. And no third parties. So this is all decentralized. It's just automatically essentially validated by these nodes. These people that own these nodes don't necessarily have centralized control over these. And so the third parties kind of nixing those make sure that you're getting kind of the most transparent and the most fair price on your swaps. And the other thing is that there's always a ton of liquidity. So that's going to maximize the efficiency of the protocol because as swaps come in, as trades come in, there needs to be money or liquidity to actually make the market and have the buyer and seller come away from the transaction in a successful manner. So that's kind of the immediate value prop for THORChain. It's really, really exciting because if you are paying attention to crypto, you see how many chains are being built side by side by side. It's pretty clear that the future is going to be somewhat multi-chain, if not entirely multi-chain. So THORChain is trying to get ahead of that, which is super exciting. Now, coming over to the actual token that we're going to be talking about, again, it's called RUNE, and basically it powers the THORChain ecosystem. And what it does is, one, it provides liquidity. So like we said, it provides the settlement for the buyer and the seller. It provides security as well. It's driving the economic behavior and the resistance, the civil resistance mechanisms that are needed to kind of consolidate the security and decentralize the security. And so the other thing it's being used is as a governance token to signal the priority of swaps on the chain. And then, of course, incentives in terms of actually paying out rewards to node holders or liquidity providers. So definitely, something that you should be looking into. I've been researching THORChain just for a little bit, and that's kind of why I wanted to share this with you. But let's kind of hop into where THORChain is right now. So if we're taking a look at it, rank 47, very impressive, right? I mean, we're talking about something that's up there, with Chainlink, Uniswap, FTX, Decentraland, Phantom, Axie, Tezos, a lot of big coins. So this definitely isn't a, small player, not a huge, not a top 10 coin either, right? But, still definitely something to be paying attention to. But recently it's been on quite a tear. And so we're going to kind of break down why, and we're going to kind of look into how to analyze some of these, chains and node projects. So let's break into the actual total value locked. So this is always a very, very important statistic to be looking into when you're investing in these types of projects. The total value locked shows you how much is being staked, and then how much is being provided in terms of liquidity in the actual chain or what's existent on the chain. So this kind of gives you a idea for how strong financially the backing is of these companies, because a lot of times the worry is that people are just cashing out, and there isn't enough total value locked to sustain the project. But here what we've noticed I'm gonna break out a little pen here too. Here what we've noticed is that the total value locked has been on a steady increase right here ever since what seems to be, you know, early March, late February. March 8th seems to be the day that it really took off. And what's interesting is as you look at that in terms of comparison to the chart, it's right about that same day, right? There's probably like a day or two lag here, but right as that total value locked rises, so does the price of the token, because this is an indicator of the demand and the usage of the chain, right? So this is more liquidity, more money, more traders coming in, more farmers coming in, looking for that liquidity, looking to have activity on the chain. So this is always a healthy indicator. And, you know, something else to kind of compare this to, right? You know, Luna has been on a tear as well recently. And what's unique about this is that it's almost the same exact thing, right? On, you know, February 20th, between the 20th and the 25th-ish, you know, we see this huge rise from them over the next, you know, month or so, give or take. And if we go over back to DeFi Llama, we can see right in that same area, right in that February, you know, 20th to 25th, 20th to 30th, that's when, you know, the total value locked really went crazy. You know, we're talking about almost a 50% increase here, you know, just in the matter of a few weeks, right? So it's always important to watch how much value is being locked up in these chains, because that tells you what the demand is like, how many folks are involved, how much money is actually involved in this chain. So that's going to give you an idea of how legitimate it is and how much people trust it, and you know, how efficient it is, right? Because if people are using it, people are flocking to it, that means it's a good product, means it could be sustainable into the long term. So that's definitely something, again, total value locked, really important to look at. And it seems as though, you know, ever since the end of February, there's been a lot more activity on THORChain, probably why it's starting to trend on Twitter and getting a lot of notoriety, hence why I'm also probably doing research on it. But you can see it's almost doubled, right? Same kind of activity as Luna. Luna was closer to 50%. This is closer to 100% increase in the total value locked. And we've actually seen, to get over to the chart here, we've actually seen even more of a gain, you know, closer to 130% in the actual chart at its highest point. So now that we're over to the chart, I kind of want to get away from the on-chain analytics, talk a little bit of chart analysis. We'll do some price predictions. You know, it's a little bit tougher with these types of projects, you know, given the way that they conduct their business, right? So it's not necessarily a, you know, coin like Veracity or you know, these other altcoins. This is kind of a living, breathing blockchain that's providing liquidity pools, has, you know, a node structure. So there's just a little bit more that goes into it, a little bit more fundamentals to consider. But at the same time, you know, I'm happy to do some of this chart analysis. So let's hop in here. Recently, you know, just since November all the way to just in the last couple weeks, late February, we've had this kind of extended falling wedge forming, and it's a beauty. You know, seeing something form for this long, you know, the breakout is most likely when it comes, it's going to be nice. So we had this long falling wedge forming, and as we were forming that, we also fell, you know, almost 100%, 82% ish at our height, and that was over the course of 115 days. Give or take, you know, almost 120 days there. So once we found that bottom, you know, obviously we saw this kind of double tap here on this support, and then we actually went back to the upside. So now we're in kind of this ascending channel, and this is kind of where it's been getting interesting, right? You know, every time that we've kind of tested this trend line, I gotta say, I've thought that we're gonna kind of come back below, because if we look at how much we've actually ripped here, you know, I mean, we're March 8th to March 20th, you know, so 2 weeks or so, we're at 130% right there, right? So I would assume at some point we're gonna have to come back here and at the very least retest this channel, which it looks like we're about to do right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, we're going to retest another one of these supports up here, right? Or sorry, down here. So, I definitely would be careful right now in terms of watching this. This is not something that I'm just tossing money into right now. Just something I'm putting on my radar and kind of waiting for a entry point. So let's clean up this chart a little bit and kind of get into a little bit more analysis. And then I want to break down a couple things about price. So I'm going to pull up really quickly this RSI to take a look here. So the one thing that concerns me short term, not long term, about Rune in terms of like an entry to get into to invest in is the fact that we've had this RSI playing between 50 and 70 for quite some time, almost that whole 2-week period since we've been on that ascending channel. And why that's concerning is because 70 is, the overbought mark, meaning that it's actually overvalued most likely. And RSI is not always correct, right? But it's just a tool in the toolbox to kind of help us analyze where we could be headed, right? Especially in the short term. So if you can see right here, when we were kind of consolidating, right, we spend most of our time between 50 and 30. 30 is our oversold or undervalued mark. And you can see that we spend a lot of time in here, right, as we're consolidating. But now we have spent a lot of time in between this 50 and 70 mark. And the last time we did that was right over here. And so the last time that we did that, for this extended amount of time, we've done it here, right? So it's not a foolproof, but we've done it here and here just for not as long of a period of time, right? So these two here and then over here, these are a couple weeks long each. So this is just something that I would keep your eye on because obviously, you can already tell what happened during this period, right? After we, kind of bounced between 50 and 70 RSI, kind of looking overbought. We can see what happened right after that, right? We had, in a short-term drop of 40 or so percent. So, a 40% drop from our current levels would put us down towards here. So, not a terrible retest, but obviously, that wouldn't be enjoyable to see at all. But at the same time, I just want to point that out because we are looking like we are pretty overbought right now. Not quite yet, right? But, this is something that I would just keep your eye on as we move up this channel and see if we can kind of end up back here. Again, that might mean that we're coming back and correcting a bit, which is okay. At some point, since we've gone 130% in a couple weeks, we're going to have to see a correction here at some point. I'm just saying that it's likely coming here pretty soon. So now that we've kind of talked a little bit about that analysis, let's just get into quickly where we could be going in terms of price. So I'm going to draw a quick fib retracement here. And we're going to just look at a couple key levels. I'm going to extend out this bar so we have a little help. Want to make sure that this is as accurate as possible really quick. And so now that we have this up here, we can kind of talk about what the key levels are going to be short term as we kind of zoom in here. So what you're noticing right now, and I'm going to zoom in actually even more here. So what you're noticing right now is we're bouncing off this 8.4. We've tested it once, and it looks like we're going to try to back test it again. What we want to look for, if we break down here, I would say we're probably coming back down and testing something, down in this area, down in the 7.4, 7.5 area. But if we double tap here, have a little double bottom, that could send us back up, to the top of this ascending triangle. But our next really big kind of target, our next ceiling, if you will, is about $10.10 roughly. So we're gonna have to kind of move up this channel slowly but surely. And the next really big resistance point is gonna be $10.10. So if we break above that, I think it's likely that we play, in this higher channel here, between this 1180 and 1010, like we were talking about. So if we end up, getting above that, I could see us playing in this channel for a while. But really right now it's $10.10 to keep your eye out on. I would say, obviously, again, it's important to note that we've been above the 100-day moving average and the 200-day moving average for quite some time. That does not remain the case for very long in the history of the chart. If you can see right here, and right here. Right, so at any moment this doesn't last for very long, right? So I mean, obviously we could have some more runway, but we have to, always zoom out and kind of remember in the context of the chart where we're at. It's easy to get full moon boy and think it's going to the moon, especially when we've done almost 4x in such a small amount of time. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in terms of where we could be headed right now. I think with how big our market cap is, let me double check that again. Non-fully diluted, it's 2.8 billion, excuse me. Again, rank 47 token. I think similar to a lot of tokens at this level, you're really hoping for a 2 to 3x. Anything more than that is asking a lot of the market cap, asking a lot of the project entirely. So that would put us looking back towards this all-time high. So the all-time high is at 17.2. I think that's our short-term ish target, right? I mean, we need to get back to that before we break another huge run out, similar to this. Oh, excuse me. That's our most recent high. Our all-time high is back up at 21.10. That's my bad. So 17.2 is going to be another big area. We're really going to be playing between 17.2 and $4 until we see something a little bit more convincing. But in the short term, again, just to recap, we need to get above $10.10, and then longer term, I think our target is between $17 and $26 up here. So that's longer term, meaning if Bitcoin and Ethereum stay bullish, if things go right in terms of the on-chain data, if people keep flocking to THORChain, if people keep believing in it, I think we're going to see something up around $20, hopefully in the long term. So that's what we're seeing. $10.10 short term. Make sure we need to retest that $8.50 mark. Really interesting project, great fundamentals. The chart looks pretty healthy, and I'm excited to kind of read more about this. Let me know if you have any questions, and let me know what other projects you'd like me to cover down in the comments. If you got value out of this video, would love if you dropped a like as well. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in the next video.